Welcome to the MP Podcast. I'm Lincoln.
I'm A-Bomb.
Today's episode is brought to you by Saltwater Taffy, Caramel's flamboyant cousin. Do you like saltwater taffy? I know, that was amazing. That was the perfect point where you were like taking a drink and you didn't know I was going to say that.
No, it is true though.
So, first podcast on the MP channel. How do you feel?
I feel good.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Talk about our weekend, see what's up.
Yeah, so today we're going to be filming these on Mondays, so we can kind of, I don't know.
Gives us a perfect opportunity to catch up and talk about what we did.
Okay, so on Friday,
Yes.
first thing I want to talk, we should probably get this out of the way because the first thing I want to talk about is the new movie, The Guilty, that came out on Friday with Jake Gyllenhaal. You specifically texted me to ask if I had watched it. And I'm like, no, it just came out today. You texted me at like 3 in the afternoon or 4 in the afternoon. You're like, have you watched this movie yet? I'm like, no, it came out today. Like, I planned on watching it tonight.
I was like, hurry up. I'm a Jake Gyllenhaal fan, though. That's the
Love
thing.
Jake
like,
Gyllenhaal.
he's my boy. I've loved him since Donnie Darko. There's a lot of movies that I really like him in. So, and I've seen some teasers and trailers for this coming up. And I like the idea, like, 911. I just like the whole setup. It has a really good, like, premise behind it. So I was excited to see it. I really was. I was stoked to see it. And then
essentially, without giving away the whole movie, essentially
there might be some spoilers though as we talk about it, so we might want to warn some people.
I don't want to. I don't want to. That's the thing. I want to talk about it. I want to talk about my feelings.
Yeah.
Without spoiling it.
Okay.
I'm sure you can talk about your feelings without spoiling it.
Yeah.
To a degree. Essentially, the premise is Jake Gyllenhaal is a 911. He's a former cop who's been demoted to 911 caller, and then there's a whole bunch of stuff surrounding the reason why he's a 911 responder, call taker, and
like operator.
Sure, 911 operator. That's the word I was looking for.
Call taker. I like that.
He was a 911 call taker. There's a whole bunch of stuff that goes along with that, that plays into the movie and stuff like that. And before we get into it, did you like the movie?
No.
Okay. I'm
so
liked
curious.
The first 30 minutes, I was like, this.
We have such opposite in some things.
Okay.
We're very opposite.
This
which
is
good.
hilarious because
Yeah.
when you were texting me to be like, watch this movie so we can talk about it, I was like, oh, he must have really liked it. And then the whole time I'm watching him, I'm like, why did he like this? It's called The Guilty, but I retitled it Bottle Episode, The Movie.
Yes.
It's just the whole movie takes place in one place.
You're nailing it so far.
One place.
Yes.
It's all one place.
Yes.
They shot. So I watched. Jared sent me an interview. The interview he did with Jimmy Fallon, Jake Gyllenhaal did.
Oh, okay.
And Jake Gyllenhaal was talking about how he was talking to Antoine Fuqua, the guy who directed it.
Okay.
He basically brought him that movie saying, hey, we could shoot this movie in 48 hours. Like, it's literally like we could shoot it so quick. And during the pandemic and all this.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was like, okay, we realistically looked at it. We could shoot it in 5 days. What they ended up shooting it in was 11 days. The whole movie was shot in 11 days. Antoine Fuqua,
Crazy.
the director of the movie, was a close contact to somebody with COVID right as they went to start shooting. So he had to technically quarantine for 2 weeks during their 11-day shoot. But what they
I'm doing
did...
math, sorry.
I know, right? So what Jake Gyllenhaal said is that for the whole, basically the entire shoot of the movie, they had hardwired monitors to this van outside of the studio on the street, and he directed the whole movie from this van on the other side. So
now
he wasn't.
It makes sense.
So he wasn't close contact with anybody. He just sat in the van alone all day directing the movie while he was in the van.
Weird.
Really weird. And after seeing this interview with Jake Gyllenhaal, I was so excited to watch the movie.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, this movie sounds amazing.
Yeah.
The premise is super amazing.
Yes.
The execution of it, not as good. If the first half of it had been Bottle Episode and then it got more thrilling because it had expanded, great. That's the thing. Without giving too much away, there's a certain point that I hit in the movie where I'm looking at Jake Gyllenhaal's character, and I'm going, dude, you're off work. Why are you still in the building? That was what was really bothering me about the whole thing, where I'm like, if he was really affected by what was happening so much, he wouldn't be there. He would have
100%.
He's like
they would have removed him.
Well, they would have removed him for one, but second of all, he's like having other people go do things for him when it's like in reality, he would have gone and done that himself.
Totally.
So it very much, the fact that they had to shoot this as kind of a bottle episode movie really showed through in that. And like, yeah, it ultimately kind of the culmination and the twists and all that were great. I was like, all right, some of it I kind of saw coming, some of it I didn't. Did you? Okay, that's fair enough.
I mean, I'm not saying that like I'm a savant or anything, but like in this particular case, I was like, and then I ended up calling it, which maybe took away some of the glimmer of the show to me, maybe a little bit, because I was like, called that.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's better when it's like called that and I was wrong. Yeah. Which has happened before. I've done that before where I was like, no, it's definitely Colonel Mustard in the living room with the rope, and it wasn't at all. So.
Oh yeah, and that happens all.
I got really bored at certain points because I was like, man, like I am kind of tired of this situation. The other thing about it was that like it's a the movie takes place basically in a 911 operating room. So there's like there's supposed to be a lot of operators and stuff, and like it was cool the way they had set up the room. Like it was kind of like very new age. I'm sure no 911 operating room looks like that at all with the TV screen. Maybe, I don't know.
It was really nice.
It was like very much military-esque almost, the way that it was like all new like technology, and like they had the fires because it takes place in California. So, and there are moments in the movie that went outside of the room. Like I don't know if you remember when they're talking, they pull someone over on the highway and they cut to the police pulling over someone, and there's like little tiny shots, like vignettes almost of like things that are going on outside of the room, but that stops really soon. Yeah. And then you get kind of like stuck in this room with Jake Gyllenhaal and literally 5 operators. And I'm like, there would be so many, there's fires, there'd be so many people working. Like there's just like a lot going on. I didn't really believe it. And I got the voices on the phone were bothering me.
Yeah, I also felt like there was a lot of like, for a 911 operating kind of room or like station or whatever, it felt like, the room was very sparsely populated.
There was like people. 5 people.
There was literally like, 5 people in there, and I was like, no, there's no way. They would have had like,
for the
so population of, like, and I'm sure obviously there's multiple 911 offices in California and stuff like that, but like, I'm sure there's like 30 people working in all of them. Totally. Because the amount of calls that's the other thing that was super unbelievable about the whole thing, is that there wasn't that many calls coming in. I don't know. It just like
the one call where he was like, "What do you want?" I'm sorry, I'm the not guy trying to give it away. Yeah, and he was like, "I don't give."
Yeah, that was it. Just
I was like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, like you're gonna be in trouble, dude.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know. I love him. Just wasn't a big fan of this movie.
And you know what? It had, but that's the thing, is it had a lot of potential.
100%.
It had a lot of potential, and it just kind of, I was super into it. The first 30 minutes, I was like, where is this going?
Yeah.
And then it kind of just like, once you realize that we're literally, we're not leaving this room. We're not leaving this building at all.
Yeah.
It kind of, it's, because, and I going into that, I knew that too, because that's what he talks about in the interview with Jimmy Fallon.
I really had no idea when I went into it at all.
Well, yeah. So I knew kind of going in that it was going to be mostly in this building, but I thought there would be a little bit of
like other parts.
I thought there'd be a little bit more.
It would have made the movie so much better if you had like little like snippets of what was really going on outside of the room.
Totally.
I think. So, but I understand the whole COVID thing, and like I also thought about that when I was watching it. I was like, this is a COVID movie. You can tell
100%
because there's like 5 people in the movie.
Well, yeah.
And they don't leave the room, and shit,
there's so many good actors in it.
Yeah.
But you don't know that they're in it because they're all. He said that they were made this movie. They were calling in from all over the world to do it. They were literally all those parts where they're on the phone. He's on the phone with people.
Yeah.
He was literally just on the phone with people.
Okay.
He's like, we had people calling from Australia. We had people calling, like Peter Sarsgaard is in it, and
crazy.
Yeah, he plays the
vampire.
He plays the dad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's the dad.
Oh shit,
dude. Ethan Hawke's in it.
Crazy.
You would never have known though.
He played the operator beside him.
Okay, so let's jump
full
off
makeup.
Yeah. Let's jump off
Yeah,
the
let's do it,
guilty,
yeah.
but kind of keeping in the same vein of movies.
Okay.
One thing I really wanted to talk about, and it's been talked about to death, but I really wanted to talk because we have not talked about this like at all.
Brought it up, and we were like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, I need to talk about this because
I want you to.
it's
Yes.
so. I mean, gonna have to beep that out, but that's fine. Nintendo announced that they're doing a Mario movie next year. That they're putting out a movie in 2022. Finally, great, we're getting another Mario movie. That's awesome.
It's been like late 80s, the last one, or early 90s?
Yeah, with Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo.
Right.
Cult classic. It is a terrible movie. Dennis Hopper as Bowser.
Right.
Terrible movie. But it's like one of those cult classic things that you love to hate, right?
Yeah.
I can agree with, I think, 95% of the cast.
Okay.
That they've.
So who's been confirmed sort of like in their roles so we can go through that?
Okay. So I'm going to work through this.
Because wasn't there some like.
Well, let's work through this. So
yeah.
Anya Taylor-Joy is Princess Peach.
Okay.
Charlie Day.
No idea who that is.
She is did you ever watch.
It's a cool name, though.
Did you ever watch Split? With like the M. Night Shyamalan movie?
No.
Or The Witch?
No.
Oh my god.
It's all good. I should watch those.
She's beautiful.
really good? Okay.
Yeah, she's got like a very unique face because her eyes are kind of set a little bit wider. So she's very, very beautiful girl.
Cool, okay.
Anyway, she's playing Princess Peach.
Okay.
Charlie Day
Yeah.
is Luigi, is Bowser.
No, I heard that.
That's
amazing.
They're saying Seth Rogen is playing Donkey Kong, which is kind of interesting.
That's interesting.
It's an interesting. I'm okay with it.
I wonder how they're going to do these characters too. Like if they're going to do like
We're gonna.
how are they
I don't
going to
know.
make them look?
We won't know until they do the first trailer.
Yeah, that's fair.
Keegan Michael Key is playing Toad.
Okay.
That's whatever.
Sure.
Fred Armisen is playing Cranky Kong, which I'm into it. Fred Armisen's awesome.
Fred Armisen, man.
Kevin Michael Richardson is playing Kamek. Kevin Michael Richardson, you would know his voice. He's got a very deep, like beautiful, like sexy kind of radio voice.
Ooh, nice.
But the list also includes. Got to pull up the photo here. Did I say pretty much everybody? I did. I did say pretty much everybody, except the only one that I disagree with is they've cast as Mario Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
And I'm not alone on this.
No.
I know I'm not alone on this.
This is the whole Ben Affleck Batman thing again.
But that was a good choice.
No, I'm just saying the idea of like where people are already like, no.
Okay, but I'm agreeing with them on this one.
Yes, I agree.
I hate Chris Pratt.
Okay.
I cannot stand Chris Pratt. Everything that Chris Pratt is in, he's the same. He's just the same person.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Yeah.
Between Jurassic World.
Yeah.
Between
like Guardians of the Galaxy.
He's the same character.
He's even the same on Parks and Rec.
But
Community. Sorry.
No, he wasn't on. He was Parks and Rec.
Yeah. I get those two shows, government shows, mixed up.
You're thinking The Office and Parks and Rec, not Community.
No, I've watched Parks and Rec. I love that show. It's funny.
Good.
Yeah. But you're right. He is the same
Chris
character.
Pratt on Parks and Rec was amazing.
Yeah.
But then it's like now he's on this weird. He's like, ever since he broke up with
yes,
Anna Faris.
Anna Faris, yes.
Yeah. Ever since him and Anna Faris broke up, and now he's married to Schwarzenegger. Whatever her name.
His daughter. Yeah.
I can't remember her name.
Yeah.
He's like super religious, like anti-abortion, like.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, just this weird path of like.
I didn't know that. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like super right wing, ultra Christian path from what I've seen, and it's like, but without being that, like, that vocal about it. It's kind of more just like subtle stuff that he's doing.
Huh.
It's kind of annoying, but then on top of that, it's just like I also find him annoying as an actor.
Right.
And I don't think he suits the role. The Mario that we
even
all
close.
want is the ho-ho, it's a me,
But
Mario.
maybe he can do. Maybe he went into the audition and like killed it, and they were like, "Whoa!" Hypothetically,
if that's what the movie winds up being, if it's another situation, okay, you remember with the Sonic movie where they released the first Sonic trailer and everyone was like, "Oh my god,
chiclet teeth,
dude! Sonic looks terrible. What is this?" And then they went back to the drawing board for 8 months, and then they came back and they're like, "Here's Sonic."
Yeah.
And we're like, all right, that's cool. And Sonic did very well.
It did, yeah.
If, let's say the first trailer comes out and it's like just Chris Pratt as Mario, just Chris Pratt being Chris Pratt, but Mario the character, I don't think anyone's going to be happy. I think everyone's going to be very upset.
Yes.
And rightfully so, because ultimately what we want from a Mario, or what we want from a Super Mario Brothers movie, is we just want Mario and Luigi.
Yeah.
And if he can do the impression, like, that's all well and fine. But like, honestly, I don't know that he's going to be able to do that.
To like embody the character.
Totally. I don't know that he's going to be able to
without being his goofy, dumb self. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so that's all I wanted to say. I knew that you'd probably agree with me on that one.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Jack Black as Bowser, though.
Dude, that's going to be awesome.
That's
and Charlie Day as Luigi.
Yeah, perfect.
Luigi, always been my favorite.
Oh, really?
Mario's not even my favorite character. Luigi is
Mario's not my favorite character.
Who's your favorite character in the Mario world?
I love Yoshi. I'm a Yoshi guy, and I love Bones.
Okay,
Yeah, those are my two.
I wonder who's going to play Yoshi. Like, I wonder if they're going to
or incorporate him somehow.
Well, he'll be in the movie for sure. But like, I wonder if they're going to
But anytime I play Mario Kart, Yoshi's my dude, and if it's not Yoshi, I'm going Bones.
That's sweet.
So that's just kind of like where I like, but I do love Mario and Luigi, obviously classic and all that. So
that's good. Yeah. I like that a lot.
So let's talk about your weekend.
Oh yes, yeah. Let's talk about my weekend. It sucks because I didn't get the footage in time. I wanted to show you the footage,
but not your fault because they have to send it to you.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I'll throw a picture up on the podcast.
Cool.
About just over a week ago. A friend of mine just messaged me and was like, hey, it's Kyle's birthday next weekend. We want to go indoor skydiving. All of us. They have 2 kids. And so they were inviting me and my wife to go indoor skydiving. My first impulse as a bigger guy, I'm like, okay, Krista's always wanted to go. That was like one of her bucket list things that she had written down, like,
Rad.
She wants to go horseback riding again. She wants to do all this stuff. And so I said to her, I was like, you know what? I guess you're probably going to get to cross one off the bucket list and go indoor skydiving this weekend. She's like, oh, that's awesome. Like, all right. So she's like super into it. And then we're like looking into it more. And I'm just like, I don't know. In my head, I'm like, the weight limit was the last time I had looked into it. I'm pretty sure the weight limit was like in the mid, or higher 200s, like 275 is what I thought.
Okay.
And I'm like, so instantly she asked me, and I'm like kind of bummed out because I'm just like, I can't go.
Right.
Like, I'm instantly like, I'm over the weight limit. I cannot go.
Yeah.
So
that's how I feel, and we normally feel about every event that ever happens.
Well, as bigger guys, it's kind of like,
oh, for sure.
There are instances where it's just like I had this is a funny story, but like Miller and I once went to go karting.
Yeah.
Went, filled out all the paperwork, blah 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 blah, and then it came time to like actually go, and she was like, "All right, step on the scale," and I was like, "Pardon?" She's like, "Yeah, step on the scale," and I'm like,
"Bend over."
All right, yeah,
like,
pretty much.
What?
I'm like, "Okay," so I like step on the scale, and she's like, "Oh, you're over the weight limit," and I'm like, "Pardon?" Okay, I didn't.
She's like, "You're fat."
Like, pretty much. And there's like we had been there for like 15 minutes, like filling out all these
paperwork and shit.
Yeah, like we'd set up accounts. We were like
marrow sample.
Yeah, and I didn't even know there was a weight limit up until that point. So then all of a sudden she's like, "Yeah,
I know go karting is one of those things that you're like, really?"
But they were electric go karts. They weren't gas powered. That's why I've gone.
It's indoor. Makes sense.
It's indoor. Yeah. I've gone gas powered go karting.
Yeah,
before.
Me too. In BC, they never ask me.
Sylvan Lake.
So
we all
that's
went.
The thing. Yeah.
And we're all big guys.
Yeah.
Like all of us that went.
Yeah.
Like there was guys that are bigger than me that went, 100%. And we were all doing it. So anyway.
Yeah.
I had to tuck tail and kind of like, all right, I guess I'm leaving. I can't go karting, and like I felt bad for Miller. Miller was just kind of like, fuck, like I really wanted to go. He's like, I really wanted to go.
Let's go get cheeseburgers.
Yeah, I was like, let's go get cheeseburgers again to make me feel better. And
let's go eat our feelings.
And he's like, I don't think you should be eating your feelings anymore.
You're like,
ever
no, but
again.
Seriously.
So anyway, I'm like, I don't want to go through a situation like that again, totally. Where I'm just like, I'm like I already know I'm over the weight limit. So when we start looking into it, and it turns out that either they changed it, or I just misunderstood the first time when I was looking into it. And their weight limit is you can be 300. 300 is the weight limit.
They got a bigger fan.
a bigger fan.
Let's bring in the 6-foot fan for these big guys.
Well, yeah. Well, and I'll get into that, but they can up the speed and whatever.
Cool.
I weighed myself. I was over that.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm like, but I'm not like 330.
No. You're
know
like
what I mean?
close.
I was close.
Yeah,
So when I weighed myself on the Sunday, when I was like, oh, like I could probably make this happen.
Yeah.
I was 310.
Right.
So I spent the whole week. I was like, I messaged Jared.
You were so good.
I messaged Jared. I was like talking to people. I was like, all right, how do I make weight?
Yeah.
The first thing Jared said to me, he was like, there is no healthy or safe way to do this. So I highly advise.
How do I lose 10 pounds in 1 minute?
Yeah.
He's like,
He was like, first of all, don't do it.
Speed?
But also,
okay.
the next thing he said was, drink lots of water. And I was like, okay. And he was like, no. Drink like lots of water. He was like, drink too much water.
Okay.
I'm like, okay. That sucks. But okay. So
water's not your best friend.
No, not in that instance. But so the whole week I worked super hard, and you saw this.
You were good.
I was good
So
the whole
good.
week. I managed to.
I was thinking about you all week too.
I know, right?
I didn't want to message you or like stress you out about it because I know that you were really like focused on trying to cut that weight to be able to go and not miss out on your friend's birthday. So.
Truth and Reconciliation Day that just passed last week or whatever.
Yeah.
Tim Hortons has a pastry for every single
like the
holiday
orange
where they're
donut?
like, we're raising money for everything, which that's a whole other thing I don't want to get into because I don't really like it.
That's another podcast.
But they did a Truth and Reconciliation donut, which was like orange sprinkles on top, which is great.
Yeah.
As long as that money is going where it should
Totally.
go, I'd not into the pockets of Tim Hortons, which is where I think it's going.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
Yeah.
And Krista said that she went and got a donut that day, and she was going to send me a photo of because vanilla dip donut is my favorite donut from Tim Hortons. She was going to send me a photo of it and be like, "Look, they're doing orange donuts." And then she told me this yesterday. She was like, "I rethought that decision because I know you couldn't have a donut, so I didn't send you a photo of the donut."
Rubbing it in your face.
Yeah. So from Thursday night, I had dinner Thursday night, and then I had Friday. I had 2 granola bars, and I drank 3 liters of water on Friday.
Damn.
Woke up Saturday. And so from Sunday to Saturday morning.
When was it? Saturday that you guys were going?
It was Saturday at 3:30 p.m.
Okay.
We went. So from Sunday when I weighed myself at 310 to Saturday morning when I weighed myself.
So 6 days,
Yeah. I was at 298 Saturday morning.
Oh, sick.
Yeah.
Rad.
So
Good work,
I
dude.
was hungry as hell.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I did it. I managed to drop all the water weight.
Nice.
And kind of maintain through the whole week.
Sweet.
Get it down to 298, and then I put the clothes on, and it was 299. Or no, sorry, it was 3.
You come in wearing silk pajamas. You
Yeah.
want the lightest thing possible. You're like, wave me now.
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
Wave me now.
Well, it was funny. So anyway, I made weight.
Yeah, that's good.
And
because they said anything over 300, you checked.
No
Nothing.
good.
Okay.
I said, okay. So as long as it was 300, if it was 300.5, I think they would have been fine.
Fair enough, yeah.
It's a liability thing.
Okay.
Because I said that to my friends, and they were like, "That's ridiculous. Why does 1 pound make the difference?" I said, "It's because on their liability waiver, they're looking at it like I am over the weight limit. So if anything happens and somebody gets hurt, therefore they're now,
it has to be black and white.
Because that's probably what they have in their contract with their
100%.
lawyers
and their
or whatever.
insurance
Yes,
and stuff.
exactly.
Yeah,
It's anything over 300, no go.
Yeah.
So we go to the place, and I was not a nervous wreck, but I was just oh my God. The
I
whole
would've been
week I was
nervous.
oh my God. I was more focused on okay, I want to do this. I got to make weight. And then we get there, we're signing in, we're doing all the stuff, and then they've got this little silver scale on the floor you step on. I'm okay, so I dropped my keys, my wallet, everything, took my hoodie off, my back, everything, my shoes off, and I get on the scale, and I was I worked really hard for this. Get on scale, and then it's kind of this.
What if their scale's different?
That's what I was worried about.
I didn't even think about that
because
you're all at home on your scale, but then you get to their scale,
that's
and it's
what I was
1 or
worried
2
about.
pounds off.
Yeah, that's what I was worried about. So we do that, drop everything, and I get on, and then there's this moment of oh my God, and she's looking at the computer, she's not saying anything, and then she's kind of okay, you're good. And I was oh, thank God. Sweet. So then it goes from me worrying about making weight to do it to now suddenly I'm actually I'm seeing the tube. I'm seeing people do it. Now I'm focused on oh God, I actually have to do this? Oh my God. So if you've ever seen videos of indoor skydiving, it's actually not bad because it's just a tube that's blowing up, or it's kind of, I guess there's a fan in the top. My friend explained it to me. There's a fan in the top, so it's sucking air up, and then it kind of like the way the building's
it's
shaped,
like built weird. Like it's got handles, sort of.
Yeah, it's got handles on the building, and then that's just for the tubing. So it's doing like a circular motion.
Okay.
So it's just like this steady stream of pressure coming from the bottom to keep people floating. Cool. So yeah, I made it. We got the suit fit me. Everything fit me. The helmet didn't fit me.
Okay.
So I had to wear an open face helmet with goggles. Everybody else got to wear a helmet with like a face shield.
Oh, like a motorbike helmet, kind of.
Yeah, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah, like
you're going old school with the scarf around your
skydiving
neck?
helmet essentially.
Okay.
Is what they were wearing.
Okay. Got you.
And yeah, I was wearing like, it was essentially like a skateboard helmet,
Right.
with goggles.
Goggles, yeah.
And she was like, "Is that okay?" And I was like, "It's totally fine."
never
I was like,
done this before, so
because I
maybe.
put the other helmet on and it was so tight.
Oh,
and she was like,
God.
"That's the biggest helmet we have on that side." I was like,
You're like, you have 300-pound people
and
coming
I was
in here,
like,
and that's
I
the
don't
biggest
want
helmet you have?
I'm like, I don't want to get to the. No, I was probably like the biggest person that they had in a while because they were all. I was looking at all. Okay, also, the girl that was our instructor. When I say that I weigh 3 times what she weighs, I'm not joking. Room telling us how to do it, how she's going to be like, all right, I'm going to be in here and I'm going to hold you guys, blah, 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 do all this. And I'm sitting there looking at her going, okay.
Yeah,
I'm like, all right. But I'm like, oh, she must be really like, she must be like super trained in doing this.
Right,
And
like, yep.
know how to do this. I'm like, all right. So I'm just, because I'm trusting that she knows how to do this.
Totally.
Because she's an instructor.
Yep.
And so we're putting all the gear on, and then at a certain point, she kind of stops and she goes, "Oh, by the way," she's like, "I won't be doing." She saw like we're all geared up, and she looks at me. She's like, "I won't be doing your flight. I'll have there's another instructor that's going to be doing your flight because I'm not trained to do."
They're like, Hans.
Yeah, she's like, "I'm not trained to
From
do."
the back.
She's like, "I'm not trained to do anybody above the 260 weight limit," and I was like, "Oh." That's I'm like, I'm totally fine with that because the whole time I've been figuring out how the hell you were going to handle me in the tube. And she was, and I was like, but I was going with it because I figured you knew what you were doing. She was like, well, thank you for having faith in me. I was like, oh yeah, that's fine. So we're in the middle, we're in this tube, and then there's a little seating area off the side of it, and it's all encased, and it's like a negative pressure room so that there's no air escaping.
Right, yeah.
And it's clear. So you can, everybody, the room is circular and everybody can like sit and watch you. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't realize everybody in the room could like sit and watch you.
Watch you, right? Yeah.
All right. So now I'm like more nervous. I'm like, there's just like, there's anxieties building up about that where I'm like, oh my God. Like,
I would be feeling the same as you.
yeah. So I'm like, okay, people are going to, I'm like, I don't know how to do this. Like people are going to be, and like that granted, like the people that we were with, the guy whose birthday was, his wife and his 2 kids, him and his wife have gone, he's gone into skydiving like 5 times himself already.
Jeez.
She's gone a few times. Their kids haven't. Their kids are little.
Right. Makes sense.
And so their kids are like amped to go. And I'm just like, I'm trying not to, because I have a lot of anxieties in life as it is. And I'm trying not to let this be one of those things where I like have a panic attack and quit. Because I'm like, I worked really hard to get to this point.
Yeah.
That I'm able, and I never even once considered that I would get in there and all of a sudden I'm like, I don't want to do it. So I was like, no, I'm going to I was just like, no, I'm going to like push past this and make it happen because I really want to do this.
Definitely.
So anyway, we're sitting, so now we're geared up and we're sitting in the little half circle kind of room. Before we got in there, there was like groups that had gone before us that were like, there was like 10 people and then they just kind of switch off. They just kind of rotate like that the whole time. Okay. And I'm thinking, oh man, like, are we going to have to go with other people? Thankfully we didn't. The 6 of us got to go in our own group and be in our own wind tunnel all together. It was great. So I opted to go last out of our group because I had to have the guy come in.
Right. Hans.
And yes. So what we had paid for was 3 1-minute flights, and what they had they were like, look, they're like, would you be okay with 2 90-second flights instead of 3 1-minute flights?
Sure.
Just because like they were starting to fall behind on their day.
Okay.
And they still had more people coming in, so they were just trying to like make it more efficient, but also give us a longer flight and stuff like that, and like make it more fun for us, blah, blah, blah.
Cool.
So they had asked us prior to that too. They're like, if anybody, they were like, does anybody want to do a high flight, which is basically the instructor goes in with you and then they fly you up like 25 feet in the air 3 times, like up and down.
Okay.
And she's like, you can't because you're too fat. And I was like, okay. She didn't say that, but
I was like, she said. I mean, if she said that to you in a
it would have been
funny,
really
good way,
It would have been so
like,
funny.
If she was good sarcastic, you would have probably laughed.
I would have laughed.
But like,
she didn't say no. She didn't. Yeah. She was like,
oh my god.
No, she was actually like kind of
for you. No, but yeah.
She was kind of scared to say it too because she was like, she was
trying to be like PC about it.
Well, she's trying to be very like, essentially, where she was just like, I'm so sorry. We can't offer you the high flight because you're over the weight limit of what is allowed to go. Okay. And I was like, that's fine. I'm like, I don't want to go high. That's fine.
Yeah.
On my first one, I'm like, I don't. I think I could probably do it if I was able to like drop the 40 pounds to like get under that. Fine, maybe I would do the high flight. Yeah. But it's like, to begin with, I was like, oh yeah, I just want to do the normal
icebreaker.
I was like, I just want to do the normal
Dip
flight.
your
That's
toes
fine.
In. Yeah.
And the high flight thing becomes important later because there was a moment of abject terror, not for me, for me, but with somebody else.
Okay.
So we're all standing there. The four of them, my friend's family, they're all like, yes, we absolutely want to do the high flight. My wife's she can do the high flight, but she was like, I don't want to. That's fine.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, I can't.
Yeah.
So that was established at the very beginning. So then we're in the tube and we're doing our thing. And so the high flight is supposed to be our second flight, or their second flight. So the first one
was like 90 seconds of just like hanging out.
Yeah. So their dad, who was a birthday boy, he goes in first. He does his first flight. Whoa, like, oh, can I, figure it out or whatever. Yeah. He did really good. Comes back out. The second one is their daughter, I think, goes. She does pretty good. Both their kids are really small.
Yeah.
And so and when I say really small, Nathan, their boy, he was wearing a suit that everybody in the building that works there was like, we've never seen that suit used because the suit was
small.
Yes, I think she's under 10 and he's like maybe 5.
Oh wow,
5 or 6. Yeah, so anybody 3 and up can do this.
Oh
apparently.
Wow, okay.
But because he's really small, the helmet on his head was like, he would like get in the tube and it was like the helmet was too big and it was kind of like, so they were concerned that it was like too much for his neck or whatever.
Yeah.
And so anyway, the two kids was interesting because they were like they're trying to tell him the signals and they're kind of like, okay, we understand, but we're having they were both having fun. Yeah. Their mom goes and she's really small too. And so at a certain point, it looked like her foot was getting sucked out the door and we're like all watching like, oh my God, please like pull her away from the door. And I was like, oh my God, like, granted, I haven't gone yet. Right. Krista hasn't gone yet. So Krista and I are looking at this like, oh, we can't talk to each other because we're wearing earplugs. It's super loud. She's wearing a full face shield helmet. I'm wearing a helmet and goggles. Can't hear anything. And we're just like, oh my God. So then Krista goes and gets in the tube and I'm watching and I'm going, oh my God. And then it's slowly starting to hit me like I'm next.
Right.
I have to do this. And I'm just like, when I say that I was 50-50 on walking away from doing it, it was probably more 60-40. Maybe even 70-30. I was like, 70-30, I don't want to do this.
Okay.
And I almost walked away.
Anxiety was creeping in.
It was creeping in. And like, because like, it was like you could hear it when the kids went in because they were so small, like the fan's not that loud.
Yeah.
And then it was like, one of the adults would go in and you could hear the fan, but because she's so small, the fan would creep up and then Krista goes and then Frank creeps up a little bit more. Right. And then I could I go stand at the door and all of a sudden the fan's like, and I'm like, oh my God, I know exactly where this is going.
Like the red button, the switch on the wall, they're like, they're like now supersonic mode.
Literally. So it's, when because we used to fly a lot. You remember when they're taking off? And
that pressure.
And the engines ramp up.
Yeah.
That's what it was like.
Okay.
So there's that anxiety. And I'm like, oh my God, it sounds like, it's just like, okay. So they tell you have to put your hands in the air. You have to tilt your head back. You have to stick your hips out. And then you're just supposed to, in the door, fall forward. It's a trust fall where you're falling into the wind because you're like, okay, the wind's going to catch me. My instructor's going to hold on to me and the wind's going to catch me and then I'm going to start floating.
Okay.
I wish I had video of there is a video of all this and I will show it to you later. And I'm hoping maybe on the next podcast I'll kind of show a little bit of the video.
Yeah, cool.
When I actually do finally get it. But so you do this, you fall in and then you're just literally... It's just this rush of air flying past you and you're just floating there.
Cool.
And then they have signals that they're telling. So this is when you hold up 2 fingers, it's to straighten your legs. This is to bend your legs.
Okay.
This is to chin up. Like if you're looking down too much, they're going to tell you like keep your chin up.
Right.
And then this is relax, like hang loose.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, they didn't have to do too many hand signals with me on the first flight, which was great. So
wait, back up for a sec. So when you first enter the room and you're doing you're like, okay, here we go. It's my turn.
Okay.
I'm doing it. And then you do your trust fall.
So
were you like, okay, like
I was like, you know what?
you're like, let God catch me.
Yeah, I was just like, yeah. I was like, all right.
Jesus, take the wheel. Mm-hmm. But when you did it, it caught you?
Oh, yeah.
And you were like,
yeah.
Okay.
I was kind of like, okay. And then, so there's this moment of, Bert Kreischer talks about skydiving in one of the comedy specials that he did. And he talks about how the people that don't want to go skydiving, you and I, are the people that should go skydiving because
Totally
it's like
fair.
there's this moment of either or and I was very much
a lot of this for me.
So I was kind of in that. I know this isn't the same, but it's similar.
Similar, yeah.
It's similar in the sense that like this is still I'm still so sore. Like it is strenuous on your body doing this. Both Krista and I all day yesterday were like we were like
you went snowboarding.
Well, we're like
something.
we're in our early 30s and we're just like we just felt my god, like I can lift my arms today. Yesterday I was like it's so there but he also talks about this moment where you're just kind of like, oh, like you let go and there's nothing else and you've made peace with blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I kind of found that with this as well, where I was like, I've made peace with this. If this goes bad, at least if something were to happen, they can shut it down. The netting underneath me is going to catch me. I'm not going to die.
No.
I'm like, okay.
This is like the safest way for you to do this.
Totally. And I'm like, the worst that's going to happen is that I freak out and I'm just like, I try to like go into a ball and I hit the netting. Like that's the worst that's going to happen. So I was like, whatever. I'm floating there. And for the first, so it's a guy. There was a guy. He was super nice too, and I think his name was Sean. Super.
Shout out Sean.
Yeah, super nice guy. He and that's the other thing too is like as a bigger person, like you do have these anxieties about
100%.
like not feeling like you belong in a certain instance where you're like, yeah, like I had to essentially kind of make weight to do this, but I still as a bigger person, I have to make sure, like, I still don't really necessarily feel like I belong.
Yeah.
So
that's a normal feeling for us, yes.
Yeah. So he was super nice. So anyway, he's the one that's kind of handling me. She kind of jumps out and then he's like in and he's like, cool, man. He's at the door. He's like holding his fist out. He's like, here, like fist. I was like, okay, fist bump. And then I'm like straight up and he's like, do it. And I was like, all right, I fall in. And I'm just like flying. Actually, they were both in there for the first one. She was like, they're both. And when you're standing in the tube, like they know what they're doing. So they can stand on the tube. They're standing on the netting and they're not going anywhere because they're vertical.
Right. They're not like.
So the air is rushing past them and it's not carrying them anywhere. Then we do the first 90 seconds and it was like, oh man. And
did it go quick for you or slow?
It went pretty. I wouldn't say it went quick or slow, but it was just kind of this like.
Because on the outside, 90 seconds seems not like a lot of time, but when you're actually doing it, it's different.
Yeah, so it is quite a lot, and that's the thing is like I'm just focusing on, like they're telling me like okay like kind of
following instructions.
Well, like she's like looking at me and she's like kind of telling me where to put my arms and like I'm like okay yeah and they're like all right cool like you're doing it. And so I'm just kind of like I'm
so cool,
so focused on what I'm doing and making sure that I'm doing what they need me to do and that I'm not doing anything. And she's kind of like, okay, like straighten. I was like, all right. And then, so there were certain points where I was kind of like, oh, I'm a little too close to nothing. She's like, straighten, like kind of.
Okay.
And so the first flight kind of just like goes by, and then I like go and they like swing you over the door, and then you're supposed to grab the door and then bring your feet forward and kind of walk out.
Okay.
And then I'm just like, I'm out, I'm sitting on the bench, and then all of a sudden it hits me. I was like, oh my God. Because you're not thinking about anything else in you. It was like this moment of like, you very rarely have these moments where I very rarely have these moments in my life where I get absolute clarity, where I'm like not thinking about absolutely anything else in my life.
Okay.
Where I'm so in the moment and focused on what I'm doing and just like living the moment.
Right.
Right.
In the experience.
In the experience.
That's good though. That's how you should
great.
be.
Oh, 100%.
Because this is a situation where your anxiety can take over and ruin the experience. For
Totally.
you.
And it didn't.
Good.
It was like this like freeing kind of
Good.
like, ooh. All right. And then I get out and all of a sudden my heart, I'm looking at everybody and everybody's like, yeah, like cheering me. And while I was in the tube too, I was like going and I was just like, I looked at there's two guys sitting there, they're controlling the air and stuff. They're looking at me and I looked at them and I was just like, yeah.
Sweet.
And they were like, right on, dude.
That's awesome.
And then I get out and I sat down on the bench and I was just like, my heart's beating and I was just like, I felt this like rush of like adrenaline. I'm like, all right. And I'm like, oh, I have to do that again. I was like, all right, like I can't wait to do that again.
Sweet.
All right, like that's cool. And so then we kind of go. So now we're on our second flights because I was the last one to go. We're on our second flights, and they're like, cool. So the guy who was doing me, he was like, oh, I'm going to do everybody's high flight anyway. So he was like, I had to be here.
Oh, okay.
So he goes in and he goes for the first, I think, 45 seconds. Everybody was just kind of flying normally with the girl, and then he would jump in, take over, and then they would go up really high and up really high and then up and then right. And then he did that with all four of them, and then it gets to Krista, my wife, and everybody's second flight went a little bit better. Nate, the little boy, head sock had kind of covered his eyes, and he started to freak out. So they got him out, like got the head sock off his eyes, took him back in for another like couple high flights, and then it was done.
Got you.
So all of the high flight stuff was discussed before.
Okay.
Okay. So now we're in the tube, and it gets to Krista.
Your wife said no.
My wife said no.
I remember that. Yeah.
So now we get to Krista, and I'm like, and this.
Oh yeah.
So it gets to Krista, and I'm like, okay, yeah, she's gonna go do her 90-second flight. And in my head the whole time, I'm like, yeah, she said she didn't want to do high flight.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
Because she didn't want to, and like, all this. So then she's going, and she's with the girl. She's doing the normal thing, and there was like this moment of kind of like where it looked like she was kind of struggling, and it looked like she was about to like flip over, and like I was kind of like, oh my god, yeah, like I was kind of like, oh, that looked rough.
Yeah.
All right, but then she was like, fine, and then the guy takes over, and then all of a sudden they're like, he's like, all right, and he takes her up, and he's doing the whole high flight thing, and I'm watching this.
You're probably like, she's got to be freaking out.
I'm not lying to you, but that's in my head. Yeah. She's freaking out.
Yeah.
In my head, I'm freaking out
100%.
Because I'm watching this going, oh my God, I don't think she was prepared for that. And I'm watching this in horror going, please don't make the wrong move.
Right.
Please don't freak out and go, oh, I didn't want this.
Yeah, like turn into a ball and drop
and
25 feet
fucking
or
fall
whatever.
or whatever. And oh my God. So
Danger.
I am freaking out. And I'm about to go back into the tube myself. And I'm going... And I told the guy, I was like, no high, like I told him, I was like, no high flying. He was like, yeah, that's fine. I was like, cool. So I'm watching him do it with her, and I'm thinking, oh my God, please don't do that to me, which he wouldn't have done because I'm over it. Like I know they weren't going to do it to me, but I'm watching her and I'm going, oh my God, what is happening?
But she was like handling it like a champ.
Oh, she was handling it like a champ, and they and they go up and they're spinning too, not fast, but I mean when you're spinning, like it's still. It doesn't look fast from the outside, but I'm sure in that
motion is quick.
It'd be pretty quick.
Yeah.
So I'm going, I'm freaking out.
Yeah.
It didn't last long because it was like, and I'm watching the time, I'm like going, oh my God, 22 seconds. I was okay, yeah, you got to be done now. No, you're going back up. So
she went up and down like a couple times.
3 times. She did the whole high flight thing 3 times, and I'm going, I just felt sick to my stomach going, oh my God, I can't believe she's... Oh my God, what is happening? What is happening? Right. Okay, all right. And then she was fine. She gets out of the tube, and I'm just like, and she kind of like grabs onto me, like when she gets out. Oh, shit. And I was like, and I kind of look at her, and I'm like, okay, you're good. I was like, you're alive, all right. And then, and she kind of looks at me, and she's like, and like just kind of like walks past me and like goes and sits down, and I'm like, oh, and then I have to get in the tube,
right?
Like I was just like, oh, I'm so happy that
it worked out. Yeah.
Just so happy that worked out. Great, whatever. Now I have to go and do mine.
Yeah.
So this is my second flight. I go into the thing, and they kind of like, they kind of, at the beginning of the flight, they get me like super stable, or whatever. And then I'm just kind of floating around there. At a certain point, I was kind of like bumping into the glass and I'm kind of pushing away. And like at a certain point, I kind of got a little too close to the thing and I'm just kind of like floating there. And I'm looking at the guys. I'm like, yeah. And then there was like, I think with like 10 seconds left, I was kind of like, no, it must have been like, it was around 20 seconds left. There was like a moment where things kind of went a little kind of, squirrely or whatever. And I kind of like, he was kind of like moving me around. And I looked at the guys and I was like, okay, I'm done. Like, and I was like trying to signal to them, like, I'm good. Like, I don't need to do this anymore. And I went around, but I was already going around in another circle. And then by the time I came around, the girl was like looking at me. She's like standing in the doorway and she's looking at me. She was like, are you okay? And I'm like still going. And as I'm going around again, I was just like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, I know this isn't going to stop. And I know I've got like only a few more seconds. And then go. And then I go through the door and then all is good. And then they kind of asked her, like, hey, like, that was your flights. If anybody wants any extra flights, it's this much. If anybody wants any high flights, it's this much or whatever. Like, does anybody want any extras? The rest of them, they kind of did some, the family, they did some extra flights, some extra high flights. And then to end it, the girl who was our instructor does kind of like a routine in the tube that we sit and watch. And the routine involves, and I think they all do the same routine, but the routine involves is like she just jumps into it. They crank the thing full blast. She jumps in and goes all the way to the roof, and the roof is probably 40 feet in 50 feet in the air. Yeah. And at a certain, you have like what's visible with the glass, and she just goes out of visibility, and we're like, what? Where you go? And then kind of drops, and then she's just like,
must feel so cool.
Oh, I'm sure it feels so cool.
Rad.
So she's doing this whole like routine, and we're watching it. I'm just like, yeah, there's no chance I'm ever doing this in my entire life. That's fine, but it looks really cool. And then it ends, and they like usher us out. We're taking all our gear off, taking the earplugs out, and the guy who was doing my flights or whatever, he looks at me, and he was like, man, he was like. Or he starts off, he's like, man, you did awesome. And I was like, oh, really? Like, thanks. Like, that's great. I was like, I had a lot of fun. He was like, no, like he was like, that second flight, he was like 80% of it, you were flying by yourself. And I'm like, what? Because I thought he was holding on to me the whole time. He's like, no, I let go. You were just doing it. Because he was like, you were so stable. You were just, I'm like, yeah, I'm built like a brick shithouse. So I was just kind of like relaxed, like floating there essentially. And talked to me, was like, dude, he was like, you killed it. Sweet. Because you just like, they were like, you've never done this before? I'm like, no, never done this before. And they were like, you nailed. So I
that's sweet.
I didn't know if it was like a thing where they were like, yes, you're super fat and you nailed it. I don't know if they were like concerned.
You did really good considering.
But that's the thing is like, I didn't know if it was like they were, I assume that going into that, they were probably looking at me concerned that maybe there might be an issue. Like I might not be able to do this.
For whatever reason. Like it. So based on the experience that I had and based on what I was able to do, they probably all looked at that and they were like, oh, the girl would have been able to handle him no problem. Like the guy she would have been, because he was just like floating there. Yeah. And that was great. It was like this feel, like when you're in a swimming pool and you just kind of. I can think about it.
The same but different.
Yeah, I can't imagine. But yeah. So, and when are we ever weightless? That's like not a feeling that we ever feel that often, No. Like we're usually always feeling the weight of like how big we are, Totally. So to be in a situation where you are actually weightless, so to speak, is pretty rad. It's a pretty cool experience for us.
But yeah, that was one of the best parts was like, right at the very end when everybody awesome. Was like, everybody that was like coming by and they were like, oh man, like you did. And the instructor, he was like, I heard you drop some weight to like, I heard you made weight to do this or whatever. And he was like, high five. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know. I was like, I don't know who told you that, but all right. And
you're in their newsletter.
Yeah.
Our Lincoln Constable drops weight.
Our fattest customer, he did it. Look how good he did.
You can do it too.
You can do it too. But ultimately, like I said, I wish I had the footage of it because it was a lot. Like it's probably my memory of it is like I said, like I felt like he was holding on to me a lot more than he actually was apparently, and it also was. Like it wasn't as difficult as I thought it was going to be, and it definitely wasn't as scary as I thought it. Like,
Good.
it definitely wasn't.
It's in a very controlled environment.
It's a super controlled environment, and
but you are a person who has anxiety, and I'm not trying to put like anything on you for that, but that is something that you do struggle with. So anything new or kind of like out of your comfort zone starts to usually
100%
light the fire of anxiety under you. So I think for you especially, this is like huge.
Oh yeah,
you're gonna quit this job and go be a like skydiving instructor. Like Lincoln takes over the most like. You're up there doing like Swan Lake and stuff. Like,
well, could you imagine? I'm like working the counter and I'm like, "Hi, welcome to iFly," and they're like, "Hi," and I'm like, "Yes, I'm going to be in your instructor today," and I'm like wearing my suit and my like, I'm just this like
cropped.
There, I once went to a company party with Krista where it was a dress up party, and I can't.
Remember
you
this.
remember this?
I remember part of the
dressed up
story
as a Swedish figure skater.
Right.
I was also a little thinner at that point, but I like painted. It was so funny. I put the suit on and then I painted like yellow lightning bolts on it, and like I wore this thing all night. Everybody loved it, but I'm 300 pounds and I'm wearing this like tight ass suit walking around I think it wasn't the Fairmont. It was Panorama.
Right.
We were at the Panorama Resort, and I'm just like walking around wearing this like stupid suit, like getting drunk. Oh my God. That's kind of the suits that these people wear at the iPhone. They're very
fitted.
tight, right?
Yeah.
They're very fitted suits. So I just imagine, I said to Krista too, I was just like, could you imagine me wearing one of those really fitted suits and then getting in the tube and just doing the same thing where I'm just like, woo! It'd be amazing.
You doing the routine.
Yes.
Oh man.
Yeah, because they
like
part
of the
hippo
routine in a tutu.
Yes.
Like that kind of like that's 100%. What it's reminding me of.
Literally, there's a part of the routine where they circle the glass with their like Superman, where they kind of circle it down like this, like Superman, and then just imagine me, the Blob, doing the same thing, like yeah,
and your cheeks are like.
Well, that's what I'm interested to see on the video is like how it was affecting my face and stuff like that because
for sure
I don't know.
That's so funny.
But yeah, that was I know that took up a lot more time on the podcast than I had intended,
story.
But it was it wound up being
a cool experience.
It was a very cool experience. If you have, I was talking to Jeff today. Because, like, I came in through the door and I was like, yeah, I went indoor skydiving. And he immediately was like, oh, my God. Came over to my desk and was, like, asking me about it. He was like, tell me everything. He was like, is it worth it? How much was it? If you are considering going to do indoor skydiving, do it. We bought a 3-flight pack with a video from Costco.
Oh, okay.
And it was, like, relatively inexpensive. They're going to sell you on extras when you get there, like photos and high flying, which is, like, it was like $15 more to do the high flight thing.
Oh, got you. When they take you up and down.
Yeah,
okay.
And then any extra flights, like if you wanted to, like when you're done your thing, they're like, anybody want to go again? They're like, it's like an extra $20 or whatever, right? So like they're gonna sell you on extras.
But I mean, considering the price to go skydiving, you're gonna be spending a few $100s probably, and this gives you the experience without the danger.
For the most part, yeah.
For the most part,
yeah.
So, I feel like it's a good. Even if you're curious about skydiving, this would be a great way to dip your toes in.
My friend whose birthday it was, he has gone skydiving, and he's looking at me. He was like, man, I'm like, I don't want to go skydiving as it is, but he was like, he's telling me, he was like, it would be so uncomfortable for you because
oh my God.
You're strapped to somebody else.
I can't even imagine.
You're sitting on the floor of an airplane while you're flying to 12,000 or 15,000 feet or whatever, and you're entangled with so many other people. You're basically sitting in somebody's lap. So it's like you tack on the fact that I'm a bigger dude, and I'm like, I don't want to baby Bjorn myself to somebody and then jump out of I don't want to jump out of a plane as it is.
Yeah.
Like I'm good on that.
Yeah.
But I agree. Ultimately, he was like that was his concern.
But
for
do
me.
you have
like,
the itch now? Like now I'm worried you're going to be like, oh yeah,
to skydive? No, hell no.
Okay.
Nope. No.
You kind of got the best of both worlds.
I did. I got to do it in the safest way possible. I'm also glad I got to do it at home because that's one of those. They were telling me because that's one of those things where you go to Vegas and you're like, oh yeah, let's go indoor skydiving, and they were telling me because they've been to the one in Vegas and they're like, the one in Vegas is terrible.
Oh shit.
Because it's essentially an engine,
okay,
like an airplane engine underneath that's just blowing straight up. Yeah. And so it creates this weird cyclone thing in the center that is really hard to maintain.
Oh, okay. Would like screw you up, I guess. If
whereas
you're
the
floating.
one in Calgary, like the iFly, is specifically designed to like
Gotcha.
essentially create like an entire tube of air
Right.
straight up the way it's designed. So
Right.
the one we have is a really like way better, and two, that's something like, let's say I went and did the one in Vegas and then I like hurt myself or whatever, then I'm in the States.
Yeah.
It's like those little things where it's like I don't want to go
Yeah.
ziplining in Vegas
No,
because it's
I don't
like
do any of that stuff.
like over Fremont Street. It's like,
Dude, I don't
God
do-
forbid.
It's true though.
You know, it's like the stupid little things like that where I'm like, I do not want to get hurt in the States.
Yeah, your family has to remortgage their house because you got hurt in the States.
Did I ever tell you about when I slipped and fell at City Walk in LA? So this is really quick, and this is what we'll end on.
Okay.
But just because you know how in the States, like everyone is notoriously litigious.
Yes.
Everyone is litigious, and everyone is looking to like sue somebody for whatever
get
reason.
free money somehow.
Yes.
Yeah.
So because you can sue anyone in the States for anything.
Yeah.
So, and I probably could have sued for whatever reason, but
Yeah.
it's just like, I'm Canadian, I don't care.
Yeah.
We're at Universal City Walk, which is essentially downtown Disney, but it's Universal,
Like the lot.
the theme parks version of that, where it's just like, it's outside the theme park.
Okay.
They've got all the stores and restaurants and stuff like that.
Like
So
the touristy area, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So Chris and I are at Universal City Walk. We're walking around. We're going to all the stores. We didn't go to Universal. What the hell is it called? The
Studios.
Universal Studios. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah, the theme park. We didn't go to Universal Studios, but we just went to Universal City Walk
Got you.
because I think we went for dinner and then we were just looking at like some of the stores or whatever.
Yeah.
It is pouring rain.
Okay.
The entire thing is like the City Walk itself part is like pavement.
Yep.
But then I'm like, oh, I have to go to the washroom. So I went to go walk over to the washroom, and that floor is tiled.
Okay. Way different.
Very slippery tile. There's no signs that are like slippery when wet.
You're gonna die.
Anywhere. So I'm just like, do walk, and it's up some stairs. So I'm like, do.
I've seen you fall so
I know
many times.
on ice and stuff like yes. Literally
So
pull.
I'm just laughing because I've seen you go down.
So literally do up these stairs. As soon as I get onto the tile part, I'm just do. Boo. Land 3 people that were coming out of the washrooms that like saw this happen. They come like shuffling over, and this lady's like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" I'm like,
And you're like,
No. I got right up. I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm
okay.
fine." Oh no, I was fine. I just was like
like a baby deer. You're like, I'm good.
not even like I was more stunned than anything. Like,
Yeah,
oh
you're
shit.
like,
It was mostly just like, oh okay, yeah. I got up, and it was like a theater fall because it was so like it literally. I just like I kind of landed on my side, like tried to brace myself. I didn't break anything. I didn't barely even hurt myself. I maybe had like a tiny little bruise, but
Yeah.
it was fine. And they were like, no, stay down. And I was like, I'm fine. Like I'm trying to get up, and like they're like, we saw that. We saw everything. There's no signs. And I was like, I'm fine. Like thank you. But they were like, because they wanted to like,
They were like, yo, we
they were
got
like,
you.
if you're gonna sue,
we got you.
We got you.
Yeah.
And I was like, no,
Pretty
no.
nice.
It
Thanks,
was super
Vegas.
nice. I was like,
Or,
yes.
I mean, in LA. Yeah.
I was like, thank you very much, but like, no, I'm good. I got up and I like walked away. I was like, yeah, I didn't. If I had broken my leg or something,
Oh,
and there was no,
100%.
then I'd be
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, like if I have to go to the hospital, I absolutely want Universal as a
Yeah.
company paying my medical bills.
Yes.
But no, I didn't have to go I didn't have to go to the hospital or anything like that. But it's just one of those, one of those instances where that's how litigious they are in the States. I don't know why I get on that story.
I don't know, but I've just started thinking about all the times I've seen you fall.
Oh, because I didn't. Yeah, I know. Where no, I got on that because it's like I don't want to hurt myself in the States.
Yes,
but that
yes,
was an
yes,
instance
yes.
where somebody was like, I almost hurt myself in the States, and they were like, you should sue. Anyway.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching episode
Yes,
1
thank
of
you.
the MP podcast. We're going to be doing this weekly, but we're going to try to keep it to about half an hour, but this is way over that because I wanted to tell that story. If it's not half an hour, it is what it is. But anyway, thank you for watching. I'm Lincoln.
I'm A-Bomb.
We'll catch you next week.